Hi everyone and welcome to the course introduction. Here we're gonna see what we will learn in this course and let us get prepared to start. So first up we are going to see how to organize, manage and edit files like a pro. We will cover everything from import and selection files to their speedy editing in Photoshop and Lightroom. After that we will introduce some magic mouse shortcuts and concepts in general that will help us further increase our workflow speed. We all know that productivity is a key factor in us being able to deliver high amount of content to our clients. So if you want to spend less time in editing and avoid repetitive strain and fatigue causing movements to increase your efficiency, you are at the right place. What we will need to follow along is software, Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop, hardware, just a mouse, assuming that you already have a laptop, mouse with programmable buttons such as the one that you see on the screen, so you should be able to move the mouse wheel left and right. This is useful but not extremely, not dominantly. What is most important is to have few buttons here that we can program and implement into our workflow. But tune up if you're interested, this will be explained further along the course. And of course, we need willingness to practice and optimize our workflow to be more efficient. This is a course breakdown, as you can see on the landing page. After the introduction, we are going to cover some tips on file import and management. And after that, we have two sections, one covering Lightroom and one covering Photoshop. In both of them, we are going to see how we can incorporate tips and tricks and magic mouse shortcuts in order to optimize our workflow and make it lightning fast. So, if you are struggling with slow edits or you are spending too much time searching around the menus, this course is for you. You are at the right place. So how we can get the most from this course is to follow along with the instructions, apply them daily. So some of these things are kind of concepts. So we need to adopt the concept, incorporate into our workflow, and we are going to see that time saving is our benefit. This can be seen like some cheat sheet for faster editing workflow. And of course, if there are any issues, you are free to ask in the forum. So if you are excited as me, let's get started and let's optimize our workflows. See you in the class. Let's see what are some tips and tricks and best practices in file management and file import. So we just came back from our shoot and we are very excited. We transferred the photos from our SD card and we see that now we end up with countless gigabytes of images that we need to process. Assuming that you took a raw photos such as the one here, we see that each file occupies like 25 megabytes in this case, and much more if you have a higher resolution camera. We need to deal with these files, right? As you can see, I am using Windows, but please bear with me, this is not related to any operating system. On Windows, because the system doesn't offer good raw file capabilities, I am suggesting usage of Fast Tone Image Viewer. So it's a free software, you can just search it up, press download, install, and that's all. Then you can set it up here as your default software for handling raw files. We can change it, select it, and it's done. Now if we do double click here, we will open that software to preview photos. Great. What is good about this software, and if you're a Mac user, I'm pretty sure that you can find a good alternative to this software for Mac, is that you can easily and quickly preview and change pictures and see them in full size. So I see that this picture, for example, is blurry. By the way, these are my coffee tools. I just took some sample photos for us to manage. We see that this image is blurry, this image is blurry. What is the best thing to do is not importing this photo into Lightroom at all, because we can see that it's useless, right? Now we have to delete it, right? So here the magic starts. And this is the first mouse shortcut tip that is so obvious, it's so easy, but it changes the way that you are editing files forever. So how we delete files? We click delete on our keyboard and press enter. Or we click right click, delete, yes. So it's very simple, right? But what if we could do this just with one mouse click? That would save us moving our hand to delete button and pressing enter, or finding this delete button here, finding the yes, and so on. So let's see how to do that. We open our X mouse button control app or any other app that you can use. We see this app, Fast Tone Image Viewer, or in your case it can be any other app, and we can choose a mouse button that can simulate deleting file for us. And in my case, I like to use this mouse button 4 that you are going to see on the screen, and let's see how we can set it up. We press simulated keys. So what we have to do is to find the delete button, which is here. I can just copy paste this, copy, paste, delete, and the next one is enter, right? So somewhere here is going to be written return, is here. Okay, paste. Done. Okay, apply. So now let's see the magic happening. I see that I don't like this photo, I want to delete it. So I just press this mouse button, simulated key number 4, and the photo is being deleted instantaneously. So let's, for example, I'm comparing these two images. I prefer to keep this one, and maybe I don't like this one, so I can just quickly delete the photos that I don't like, so that we don't have to import them into Lightroom in the first place. So maybe I don't like this photo. Instead of going and pressing delete or pressing delete on the keyboard, I just do one mouse button movement and the photo is being magically deleted, as you can see. So although this tip is very simple, it saves so much time and energy. Actually, here is more about saving energy than time, because you could theoretically hold your hand on the delete button and click delete plus enter very fast, but it is just adding strain to our muscles. We see that this image is kind of blurry, so we can just delete it quickly. Okay guys, so this simple thing changed my editing routine completely, as now I'm able to quickly delete the photos that I don't want to keep, and as you can see, I'm doing it right now. So this is the first time I'm seeing these images. I took many on purpose so that I can illustrate the necessity of having this mouse shortcut. Imagine this was a wedding or this was some commercial product photo shoot, and you took many photos to be safe, and now you need to choose the best shots so you can import and edit them. As you can see, we are doing this very fast and without moving our hands around. So by just clicking one mouse button, we are able to delete many images. Okay, that's all for this short video. Now let's see how we can import these images in Lightroom and start with our Lightroom tips. Thanks guys, see you in the next video. Hi again guys. What you see here is some narrow selection of photos that I would like to import to Lightroom and edit. Let's stop for now. We have 27 files and we can import them into Lightroom. By selecting them all, we control and or Command A, and dragging them into Lightroom, we can drop them in. Now, if you are not familiar with Lightroom, you can check my course, which is completely adjusted to beginners, which is deeply explaining all of the settings you can find here. Build preview will say how big preview we want to keep of our image. In my experience, standard is often fine. If you want to make sure that your files are going to be loaded as quickly as possible, you can choose 1:1. So this will be keeping full-size previews into our local system. One thing that we often forget when adding images is adding them into collections. This is one tip, and it should be a routine that will keep you organized. And let's say now I want to add this still life. I want to name it Still Lives and set it as my target collection, create. Now, upon copying images, they are going to be stored in Still Life collection, and I am always going to be able to preview them again just by selecting the collection on the left. So we are clicking import, our computer is going to copy the files and create previews for us. And there we have it, guys. Our photos are imported and ready to be edited. As this is not a beginner course, I assume that you're already familiar with the interface of Lightroom. So let's focus on the tips only. What you can do if you are still not sure which are your best shots, what I suggest is doing a quick edit. Even you can do auto edit just to see our photo better. Sometimes we are taking raw images, so they can easily be underexposed. So in some cases, even image that is underexposed like this can be a nice final product. So I am just going to copy paste these auto settings to all of my images so that I can see them better. Here just for the preview. If you want to do it more detailed, you can edit one image. Let's quickly edit it. So I'll increase the exposure a bit, lift up the shadows, check the highlights. Okay, I can do slight sharpening and a little bit noise reduction because we see that this is taken at ISO 1000. And now you can see the power of creating one-to-one preview because it was very, very fast to bring the full size resolution of this image in Lightroom. Let's say that we are happy with these settings, and now we can just synchronize all the files. We can do this in many ways. The easiest ways, doing Control or Command Shift plus C to copy the settings, select all the images, and now we press Control or Command Shift plus V to paste the settings. So there we have it. Now it is easier for us to preview and select the files straight away from Lightroom as they are brought to the similar exposure levels and we can see our details very well. Let's dive into how we can make our life easier when selecting which files are going to be our final products. Let's say I don't like this photo and I really don't like it. It's not a good photo, so I don't want to keep it. What we can do in Lightroom is to click X on our keyboard and that sets that image as rejected. For example, I don't like this one. I will click X as well. Now you must be saying, okay, but we all know that, right? So what's the point of this, having it as a tip? One thing that maybe some of us don't notice at the beginning is that we can make our work faster if we automatically hide these images. So this is the second tip here, that after we select our image as rejected, we can click here and only select unflagged images. So by doing this, we are only filtering unflagged photos. Now, if I reject another image, for example, okay, these two images are similar, the perspective on this image is not so good compared to this one on the right, and I want to reject it. I press X on the keyboard and the image automatically disappears. This leaves us with less files that are going to be here, and if we are not so crowded, then we can focus on our work more efficiently. Let's check, can we remove more images? For example, I don't like this one, I click X, and this is constantly reducing the amount of files that we are seeing in our gallery. Okay, so how we can use this further? For example, let's say I'm done with editing. What I can do now, I can just filter the rejected images from here, from the attributes. I can press Ctrl or Command A, press delete on our keyboard, and these two images are kind of similar. Let's say for now I want to keep them all. This batch of images are going to be edited. Let's make a break and continue in the next video. See you guys. Hi again guys, I hope you had a nice break. Let's continue. We have to edit these images, right? And this is iterative process. Now let's assume that this is the file that I want to export. What I like to do is to tag it as well by giving it 5 stars. In my workflow, giving 5 stars to the image means that that image is processed and it is ready to be exported. We can do a similar trick here. What if I don't want to show these images that are already ready to be exported? Let's do a few of them. This is actually very useful if your goal is to edit them all. You know that you have to edit them all, and now if I'm seeing all the edited and unedited files, it is creating kind of confusion. If your goal is to eventually edit them all, why not hiding them? You see, they all have similar settings. I'm not going to copy paste settings from one to another. So now this image has 5 stars, this image has 5 stars. How to hide it? I click attributes here. So now we want to display images which rating is less than or equal to 4 stars. What we have done is that we efficiently hid all the images that have 5-star rating. Let's illustrate this further. Let's say I am going to leave the exposure a little bit here. Let's check. I am deliberately not using my main shortcuts, mouse shortcuts for editing photos in Lightroom because we are going to introduce them later. For example, I am now happy with this image. I will assign it 5-star rating. And we see that that image disappeared as well. Sometimes we need that extra little motivation, so we are going to motivate ourselves by quickly hiding all the images that are already edited. So every time we press that 5-star button key, we tell ourselves that we are closer to the goal. So this is one more way of looking at it. Okay, we fixed the exposure on this one, and you see that every time I press this key, for example, I'm happy with this image as it is, I'm going to put 5 stars. Depending on the importance of the task, sometimes we are going to edit with more attention to the details. Sometimes we can just use these quick edits. So if I press Ctrl or Command and scroll with the mouse, I am zooming in this image. So maybe sometimes I don't even have to open it. I can just edit it from this quick develop tool. So what I see, it looks like highlights are a little bit overexposed. Let's bring them a little bit down, and let's bring the shadows up. And we can say that this image looks nice. Assign it 5 stars, and it's gone. We press Ctrl or Command and scroll with the mouse, and we can see that the amount of images displayed here is becoming smaller and smaller. Let's say I'm happy with this one as well. This one also. So by the way, because these images are taken with the same lighting conditions and by using same camera settings, they are more or less evenly exposed. Editing these kind of images is actually quite fast. Let's pretend we did this for hours and we are already tired, but every time I click 5 stars on my keyboard, we see that one image disappears from our workflow. So this just pushes us forward, and it is mentally telling us that the end is near. Without making this lecture too complicated, let us check one more tip before the end. We press D for develop tool. Okay, we are editing this image. Now I'm happy with it, okay? What I can do is press caps lock on my keyboard, and now whatever label I put to this image, the next image is going to be shown. This is one very, very powerful tip if we want to edit faster. So let's start from the beginning. I am going to edit the first one. I click D for the develop tool. I adjust the exposure by clicking on the plus button on my keyboard. As my caps lock is pressed, if I now click 5 stars on the keyboard, this image is gone. You see? So we directly skipped that image and went to the next one. I'm already happy with this one. I'm clicking 5 stars. This one, maybe I like the exposure from the previous one. I can click here, previous. You see now it's a little bit brighter. At the moment I'm happy, clicking 5 stars, press 5 stars. This one is fine as it is, pressing 5 stars. This one is a little bit overexposed, I guess. Now it's fine, I'm pressing 5 stars, and voila, that's all. So we ended up having any photo that matches this filter because we edited them all. Great job for us. Now we can see that if I disable this filter, if I disable all of the filters, we end up with only the images that we fully edited and that we want to export. You see that now we have only 21 files here, and we started with maybe 100. That's all for this one. Take a new break, guys, because what I'm going to show you in the next video will further improve your workflow and make you edit like a pro. See you in the next one. Hello again. I hope that you had a great rest and you are ready to continue editing. If you are an experienced Lightroom user, you might have already realized that I edited all of these images without using any of the filters that we commonly use. So these are masking filters, and we have brush, linear gradient, and radial gradient. So here the magic starts. Let's do it manually first. I am editing this image and I want to bring this subject more into attention and darken the areas on the side. We can do this in few ways, but let's do it the old-fashioned way by using linear gradient. I am clicking on the linear gradient. I am selecting from the bottom right up, and now I need to do it again. I can do it again clicking on the plus, linear gradient, and doing it again. As we can see, even I'm not so practical in doing it in that way because I am using my magical shortcuts. We see that this is tedious work. So my approach is to create mouse shortcuts for the functions that are most useful. In Lightroom, for me at least, these are the gradient filters. As you know, I can select brush here and create emphasis on the subject by painting on top of it. Very well, right? What if I had a mouse shortcut to do this? So let's see the magic. How we can create a custom shortcut for this. Let's see first what we need to do. By clicking here, I see that shortcut for brush is K on the keyboard. Now I am editing, I am adjusting exposure and so on, and I click K on my keyboard and I have the brush. Wouldn't it be nice if I could do this just with a mouse click? And here comes the first reveal. In my experience, the best place to put a brush is actually by pressing on the mouse wheel. So the mouse wheel or the mouse scroll. Let's see how we can do it. We again open X mouse button control. We select Lightroom here. In your case, something else might be written, but anyway, it's Lightroom. By clicking on the button that we wish to emulate here, you see that this middle button is called middle button. we click Simulated Keys, and here we simply write K. It's so easy, right? We write K, apply, and now I am editing my image, I'm doing this, doing that. I just click on the mouse scroll and I suddenly entered the brush. You see? So instead of clicking twice here, I just click on the mouse scroll and I can automatically change the exposure here, paint on top of my subject, click on the mouse wheel again and add a new one. Maybe I want to darken the areas around. Let's do it. So we created a very useful shortcut that can be used everywhere. By just pressing on the middle button or the mouse scroll, I can quickly call for the brush tool, paint over my subject, click escape on the keyboard and continue editing. Okay guys, so the first shortcut was to simulate the brush key. Let's stay tuned for the next one, as the next one is going to be big. See you in the next video. Hey there. So let's quickly unlock the beast mode in the Lightroom editing workflow. In my opinion, the beast mode starts when you can quickly access the shortcuts by pressing on the mouse key. Let's see how we can emulate two of the remaining most useful filters in my opinion, the linear gradient and radial gradient. And we see the shortcuts here. To trigger linear gradient, I only have to press M on the keyboard. You would agree that this is a very easy thing to do, but once our hands are on the keyboard, pressing R, pressing C, pressing E, and pressing Q, and so on, it's not so easy to press M. You need to move your left hand and press M on the keyboard. So let's emulate this as well. We are back in our X mouse button control, and we can choose any of the buttons we wish to assign for that task. For me, this is mouse button number 4. So we are clicking Simulated Keys. We go to the settings here, and we just have to type M. That's all. Amazing. Now we are back. I am in develop mode, editing the image, and I want to apply linear gradient to darken this image from the bottom up. Instead of clicking few times, I just press on the mouse button 4, trigger the linear gradient, select the exposure, and create one linear gradient. Now I wish to do the same from the left corner. Instead of clicking here, adding new or duplicating, I just click number 4, mouse key, and add another one. Now, since we created the brush shortcut, I can click on the mouse scroll and add one brush as well. You see that this is becoming very, very fast. That's all for the linear gradient. Let's do the same for the radial gradient. We can see when we click here that radial gradient shortcut will be Shift plus M. We select one of the buttons on our mouse, go to the Lightroom again. I selected this one, for example, mouse button 5. Click on the simulated keys, go to the settings, and the only things I have to answer are Shift and M. Click OK, click Apply, and the magic starts in 3, 2, 1. You see that now I am already in radial gradient by just clicking mouse button number 5. And although this is extremely simple, by adding these 3 shortcuts into your routine, you can save a ton of time in Lightroom, I guarantee. Okay, now we are not in develop mode at all, and I would like to add one radial filter around this coffee tool. This is portafilter, by the way. Hello to all the coffee lovers. Let's do it. Now I can directly click on the mouse button number 5 from the library, and I trigger the radial filter directly. I apply my radial filter, I like to decrease exposure so that this tool can be emphasized a little bit more. This is not the best image, but it's just for illustration purposes. And I click G on my keyboard again, and voila, we fixed this image as well. I hope that you like this first set of tips for Lightroom, guys, because in my experience, these simple tools are saving me hours of editing time every month. Okay, I added one brush tool, added one more to darken some things here, and so on. You can increase your speed so much that you will be flying through Lightroom editing. And now my images are ready to be exported. Because I already clicked 5 stars, I can just press Ctrl A and press the shortcut for export, or click File, Export. Okay, and the export is finished. Last tip, how I like to classify my files. After they're exported, I click P on the keyboard, and picks are telling me that these images are already edited and exported. 5 stars are telling me that it's edited. Pick is telling me that it's exported. Now, if I have 10,000 images in my gallery, and I even don't remember if I added this very image, if I see that it's flagged like a pick, that means that I already exported it. Great. These were my main tips for improving your Lightroom workflow, and I hope that you enjoy them. Next up is diving into Photoshop for our final touches and utilizing mouse shortcuts as well. And trust me, guys, these Photoshop tips are even more magical. See you in the next one. Hello again. We are still in the Photoshop and we are still editing the same image. And let's see how we can use the remaining 2 buttons that we have here as a shortcut. And remember, this mouse scroll is clickable, so I will be able to use it as well. Let's dive into it. First, the mouse. What we do very often when we edit large number of images is using these adjustment layers. So what I can do here, maybe I want to bring down the exposure of this part of the image. I can click curves, bring down the curve, and I can invert this mask by pressing Ctrl or Command and I, which is very difficult thing to do. You need to move this hand to use the button here, or you need to stretch your finger so far. So, in my opinion, this is the best place to use mouse scroll shortcut. By just pressing the mouse scroll shortcut, I can invert the mask and just paint wherever I actually want to apply that setting. Let's see how we can do that. We go back to our friend X mouse button control. We press the button in Photoshop being selected, middle button. And now we need to find out how to trigger this effect. Control and I, right? So middle button. And I'm clicking Control I. It doesn't have to be capital. Control I. Okay. Apply. Going back. And here it is. It is working like a charm. Next up. This one is going to depend on your editing habits. In my experience, curves are the most useful tool in Photoshop. I am personally using them the most, but in your case it can be anything else. And with curves we can change the exposure of any part of the image and we can create magic. We can edit different colors, and that's a topic for another lecture. Anyway, I am using curves the most and I want to utilize this as my mouse shortcut. So let's find out how we can do that in Photoshop. So we need to find what is the shortcut for curves. we try to find that image, adjustments, curves. But this is not the curve that I want to use because the preview doesn't work so well, and because this is applied to only the current layer. So it's not that one. I need to go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Curves. Okay. And we see that this is the curve that I want to use. It's a little bit tricky to find that, so bear with me, I will show you how to do it. You can find keyboard shortcuts in Photoshop by Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts. They are there. Alt, Shift, Control, K. We are finding Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and Curves. So I want to use something that is in fact shortcut for adding curves. I want to use Control M. So this one will be replacing the curves that we just saw that are, in my opinion, not so useful. So accept and go to conflict. Okay, so now we click OK. If I'm editing this image and I press Ctrl plus M, I am entering curves. But you see that this is still a lot of work. I need to move my hand from the mouse or stretch my hands, which is almost impossible. And then I need to click OK to do what I would do just with this mouse click here. Actually, we could do mouse click on the curves, but this is still bringing our attention and adding one extra step that we can easily emulate with this mouse button. Anyway, because we set this shortcut to be Control M plus Enter, that is something that I have to emulate here. And I chose it to be this button here for me, and I'm going to do it in a way. We are clicking Simulated Key, pressed, and I'm pressing Control plus M. We saw that we need to do one more thing, which is return. It's here, copy, paste, OK, apply, and we are ready. Now, if I want to edit this image, I just press the button here, and I created new curve adjustment. By combining the two, let's say I want to bring exposure of this element by using curves. I create a new curve layer. I want to do it only here, right? So I increase the exposure. By using my magical shortcuts with the mouse scroll, I invert the mask and I paint only on the area that I want to brighten up. The same thing if I want to darken this area, for example. I'm going to enter curves and I'm going to darken this area up. You see that it becomes extremely fast and easy to use those two adjustments. And by using this, let's see, before and after, it's not the best. So what I would do, I would add some contrast here. So you save yourself a second from looking at these, finding curves or whatever. Maybe you are using levels, maybe you're using brightness and contrast. So this one is according to your preference. By putting them all three together, now I can maybe undo the previous adjustments by using my mouse scroll. I can create new curve to brighten up the temper, and now I have to save the image. And bear with me, here the real and ultimate magic will happen. Stay tuned for the next one. And we are back where we left off, and now it's time for the ultimate hack to be revealed. I hope that you are excited as well, because I'm sharing something that I never saw that anyone is using ever, from all YouTube videos, tutorials, and so on. So let's start. Okay, we edited this image and let's assume that we are happy with it. Now it's the time to save this image as JPEG, okay? So I'm clicking File, Save As. I'm selecting JPEG as the format. I'm clicking Save. Do I want to replace it? Yes, I improved it. I am selecting the quality, okay, and then I have to close it. And okay, now I don't want to save it anymore. I just saved it, so I press No. Okay, so you see that this was a lot of work. Imagine that I load, and by the way, this is one extra tip. In my opinion, if I already know that I'm going to export them all, you should be loading one batch at a time into Photoshop. Okay, so we load one batch. This will enable us to quickly save. For example, if I just need to delete one distraction here, I can just do it. Okay, I'm happy with the image. I just press Ctrl S and I save. If, for example, I need to clear more things, what I would typically do, I would duplicate this layer. Once we duplicate the background, if we want to save this image, now I press Ctrl S like just now, and this thing pops up. It is asking us to choose the file format. It is asking us to do so. All in all, there are 10 different actions that you have to do with your hands in order to overwrite your image and save it as a new JPEG. Wouldn't it be amazing if we had only one mouse button that will do all this work for us? And yes, this is the ultimate hack. Ultimate hack is creating a mouse shortcut that is going to save our image instantaneously once we click on the key. So instead of going through the motion, clicking so many times, doing this, doing that, closing the image and so on, I can just click one mouse button and watch it happen. So let's see how we can do that. Okay? What we have to do is we have to create a custom shortcut. The only remaining button, if I'm assuming that I'm not touching these two that are typically used for changing the DPI, what I have to do is use this button here. Because I'm always saving, so I put the most convenient button for me to use it for file saving. We see that this is mouse button 4. We click again on simulated keys, and now we're gonna create our ultimate shortcut. And guys, what we have to do, in order to do this, you need to go to Edit, Preferences, General. So we go to File Handling and enable Legacy Save As. Once the Photoshop was updated some time ago, my shortcut didn't work because it was saving images differently by default. Once this is enabled, I'm going to save this image as nicely here. So we can see File Save As. In order to do this, the keyboard shortcut is Ctrl or Command plus Shift plus S. So this is the first part that we have to add here. So I'm choosing Control, pasting it here, Shift, pasting here, S. Okay, now we've done the first part. I press OK, press Apply, go there to test it, and we are here. What we have to do is press Tab to select the file type and press J to select JPEG. After that, we need to press Enter. We need to press Left and then Enter again. Now I need to press Enter again to save the image. I need to close the file by pressing Ctrl or Command plus W. Go right one time and press Enter. So you can see that doing this actually requires a lot of time. One thing to know is once we are simulating the buttons, there is something here called wait. It's not wait, but waiting time. So sometimes, and this is depending on our system, we need to add some waiting time between the actions in order for them to be executed smoothly. So here it is. This is the full code, let's say, for our image to be saved via mouse shortcut. And don't worry, I will provide you this for download. So I select all, press right click, copy. I'm going to go back to my X mouse button and I press paste. Okay, press enter, press apply, and hopefully we are ready to go. In order to test this in action, I need to duplicate this layer, apply any setting, and we see that now if I press Ctrl S, I'm entering this endless loop of clicking. And remember guys, we are not doing this for one file, we are doing this for countless number of files that we are going to edit and hopefully deliver to our client. Let's say I'm doing some light retouching here, I'm deleting some imperfections, and I'm ready to go through the motion. Now let's see the magic happening. I'm pressing this button with my mouse, I'm lifting my hands, and you see that the image is saved, overwritten, and closed for me. So that connects to the previous tip of loading all of the files together, because in this scenario, I can trust myself. I even don't need to duplicate the layer. But most commonly, for example, I see that this is a little bit bright. I want to darken it up. I trigger my curves. I lower down the brightness. I undo this with another mouse shortcut that we already introduced, and I'm painting over the area which I have to darken. So now immediately we cannot use Ctrl S to save files anymore. Making copy, deleting this distraction a little bit, and I'm happy with this image. Let's close it. I'm pressing my magic button and I'm watching it happen. Okay, so we are duplicating the layer, we are cleaning imperfections. So why we should duplicate the layer is that we can always have a backup, because sometimes we get carried away in editing and maybe we realize that we overdid it. If we are not duplicating our background layer, we cannot come back and cancel the settings that we already did. So now I can test all of my mouse shortcuts. You see, I can easily undo, redo, and so on. I'm happy with the image. I'm pressing the mouse key. I'm taking rest and I'm watching the magic happening. Okay, I'm happy with this one. I don't want to edit it further. This one as well. Maybe I can. No, it's fine. Let's assume that I will not retouch it. This one is a bit bright. Let us use our magical shortcuts, adding curves, inverting the mask with this button, darkening the surroundings a bit. Now let's delete some imperfections. We are happy with it. Pressing the magical button, taking a break, and that's how we finish the whole batch. So if I need to deliver all of the images to the client, I would load them all into the Photoshop if my RAM memory allows me, and I'm going to use these simple tips and saving the file with one click in order to be able to do more. Okay guys, so this was the final tip. I really hope that you find this useful, because it really saved me probably hours of time every month. And before doing this, when I was editing large batches of images, going through this motion so many times was making me very tired, and I was just feeling, oh my god, I feel that this should be a one button job. Okay, let us do one full sample of workflow so we can conclude this course. See you in the next video, guys.